welcome again. Today is lecture number 6, and we will be covering the whole learning outcome number 3. And this comprises of three assessment criteria and one merit part and one distinction part. Let's start with it.
Ma'am, today only we will be completing the three, this thing, task three,
Sorry.
because no, I'm just asking you, today you're going to complete the task three whole, because you told like it is a lengthy one, so that's
Yeah,
why I'm asking you.
no, dear, we are only going to cover the aspects of task 3. I'm not conducting the assignment class.
Okay,
Basically, these components or these assessment criteria are present in task 3. It is for your convenience that I wrote task 3 includes complete LO3 because when you're going to consult the
okay,
slides while doing the assignment, so it gets easy if you want to refer these slides.
fine, ma'am. Okay.
All right. Be able to present research findings in an appropriate format for a target audience. Now, here, this is way too clear. Whatsoever research findings we have done in the learning outcome number 2 and 1 for our research paper, for our research methodology, we're going to add that in appropriate format. That is, it could be a table of content, and there is steps through which we have to follow. So, presenting research findings in an appropriate format for a target audience involves effectively communicating the results in a manner that is accessible and relevant to the intended viewers. Here's the breakdown. The first format of a report, the first thing is always a title. Clearly state the title of the research report. Whatsoever topic you're going to select, we're going to highlight that correctly, and it should be in the middle of the alignment as well. Acknowledgements, that is from where you have taken the data, recognizing the individuals or organizations that contributed to the research. That is sometimes, if I share my experience, when I wrote my case studies, my teacher was my supervisor at that time, so I give her the acknowledgement to me, my fellow colleagues, and her. Content pages provide a clear and organized table of contents. And I know you make a very nice table of content. I did check your assignments beforehand. Then we come across with the introduction part. Here you are going to introduce your topic. Then literature review summary. Summarize the key literature sources relevant to the research. That is, whatsoever you are going to write down, you are going to tell beforehand. Then you are going to tell the detail for it. Research methods. That is, are you opting for the primary, secondary, or the mixed one? Findings. Present the main outcomes of the research. That is, what did you produce or what did you get from the research you conducted? Then we have recommendations. Provide actionable suggestion based on the findings. Recommendations are the most important aspect, whether you write an article writing, whether you go for the case study or the thesis, or even the research proposal too. Then we have a referencing style, and we did a little bit of aspect in my assignment class, lecture 5, that what the Harvard system of referencing is. This is what they have decided for us to follow. Then we have the bibliography again. In this, we're going to follow the Harvard system. And appendices attach supplementary materials like questionnaires, surveys, or additional data. You already know that if you are going to conduct the survey method, so you are going to add, you have to show the proof that you did the survey method research, and you can paste that in the appendices. Okay. Now, analysis of the data and the statistical methods. Qualitative interpretation. Explain qualitative interpretations of records, feedback, process, categories, trends, and relationships. That is whatever data you are going to take from this type of research, you're going to explain that. You're going to prove that. Quantitative analysis utilize statistical methods such as mean, median, mode, variability. Now, this is not your part because we are only touching the literature proposal part, that is research proposal part, so not to go for the quantitative analysis. Then reliability of the estimates, trends, and forecasting. Presentations of findings. Now, here, how we are going to present our findings. It could be through methods for statistical data, that is, choose appropriate visualization such as graphs, charts, and statistical tables to illustrate the key data points. Sometimes what happens is we fetch the data from the internet and it is recommended to perform that data or show that data in the form of charts. So you can easily grab that on the PowerPoint and you can make a graph, a pie chart. Then we have language use. A proper language is always recommended, that is the formal English. Then PowerPoint presentation. I told you when we just submit the report, we submit the proposal and the cases. We also submit the PowerPoint presentation through which we demonstrate that what work you have done. This was the holistic view of whole LO3. Now we are going to be looking at each component in detail. Prepare a report that provides a comprehensive explanation of the purpose, methodologies, findings, and recommendations. So we are going to pick a report. Way too simple. And in this, we are going to tell about what is the purpose of the research, what the methodology is, findings, and recommendations. If you remember in the second lecture, which was task one demonstration of assignment brief, I chose the topic corporate social responsibility and its role in business development. So that I use same topic to demonstrate you here as well to make sure that how we are going to apply this because this is not a theoretical subject, Mariam. This is a practical one. We have to show the students with the examples.
Yes, ma'am.
The first one I told you the title, then acknowledgement. Extend your gratitude to all individuals and organizations who contributed to the successful completion of this research. Table of contents, we already knew it. Again, let's read it. In the introduction, I'm going to include about the background and rationale for the study, objectives and research questions. This is the part of intro. Then summary of literature review. In this, I'm going to tell about the overview of CSR concepts and theories, key findings from the relevant studies in the business development. Then in the same table of content, we have research methods used. That is description of the research methodologies employed, explanation of the data collection techniques, that is interviews, content analysis, surveys, questionnaires, ethical consideration, that is I'm not going to breach the data of any person. Findings, presentation and analysis of research data, that is this is my finding. This is the last few step, third last. Identification of the CSR trends and practices in the business development, case studies illustrating successful CSR initiatives. That is, I can binge my report with the proof of case study as well. That is, these are the proofs through which we achieved it. Then we have recommendations, evidence-based strategies for integrating CSR into the business development, practical suggestions for implementation, potential benefits and challenges. This is what I can add in my recommendations. Then the conclusion, done with the table of contents. Now, after this, the point says summary of key research findings and implications of the business for the business and future research because we have to relate it with the strategic development. That is why we have to add this. A little bit of demo. References should be in the form of list of all the sources cited in the report, that is Harvard referencing system. Bibliography, additional readings and resources consulted during the research process. That is, you took the data from the newspapers, maybe from any teacher, maybe from any colleague. Appendices. Now, in the start, I told that what my method is going to be. It is going to be interviews and content analysis. And the ethical approval too. Report format, how it is going to be look like. Clearly define the sections with headings and subheadings. Introduction to set the context and objectives. Literature review summarizing existing knowledge. Methodology section explaining research approaches. Findings section presenting analyzed data. This is just in a written form, the one which we discussed in the table of content. Recommendation based on the research outcomes. Conclusion summarizing the key findings and their importance. Referencing, again, it is going to be in Harvard system. In-text citation following the author date format. That is first the name of the author, the last name, then the date, and then this is going to be the format. Full details of all the resources in the references section. Proper acknowledgement of the borrowed ideas and information. That is whatsoever you have grabbed from that person, you have to give him the acknowledgement. This comprehensive report is structured to provide readers with a thorough understanding of the research on CSR and its role in business development. The Howard referencing system ensures proper citation, contributing to the report's academic rigor. Appendices offer additional materials for those interested in delving deeper into the research process. This report aims to be accessible to a diverse audience, including business professionals, scholars, and stakeholders interested in the CSR practices. We have to give the credit to the title as well in the conclusion part. Is this clear? The steps 3 in 3.1?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Reference all sources using a recognized system. That is again the Harvard one. The Harvard referencing system is widely used citation style that provides a consistent method of acknowledging sources used in academic writing. It is also known as the author date system because it emphasizes the author's name and the publication date of the work being cited. So it is way too clear, it is acceptable by most of the authorities, and the system is also known as author date system. So, in text citation, how they look like. For a single author, we are going to write as author colon year, that is Smith 2010. For multiple authors, how we're going to write it, author 1 and author 2, then comma, and then we're going to prescribe with the year, that is Jones and Brown, comma 2015. This is the proper method. If we are having three authors or if we are having more than three authors, then how do we write it? We write it the first author name, then et all dot comma year. This is how we write it. Again, this is just a sample for you, a reference list. For example, this is a reference list of a book. Author's last name, because every reference list is going to be different in the perspective of Harvard system. If you're going to fetch the data from a book, this is how you're going to jot them out. If you're going to take the data from the journal article, the differences is going to be a bit of different. Let's read it. If you're going to fetch the data from the book, author's last name, comma, the initials, dot year. Title of the book, dot place of the publication, colon publisher. This is how you're going to follow. For example, Smith, initial J dot, year 2010 in the bracket, business ethics. This is the title of the book. Place of the publication is a practical guide. Title of the book is Business Ethics, a practical guide. Place of publication is London, and publisher is the Routledge. For the journal articles, it says author's last name, initials, year, title of the article, title of the journal, volume number, issue number, that is, comma, page range. So could you differentiate easily, right? What is the difference between book
Yes,
and
ma'am.
journal while doing the referencing? Because they are going to check you on this as well, the manager, the
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
how it's going to look like Brown, comma, M dot, comma, and Davis. This is the whole name. R dot the year 2013 in the bracket. Then in the column, we are going to add the title of the article and then the journal, that is corporate social responsibility in practice. This was my topic, that is why Journal of the Business Ethics, then the volume or the issue number 25 bracket 2, and the pages from which I have taken the data is from 123 till 145 dot. If I'm
Here
taking
I want to ask you, like, the journal article is there, but
hmm,
it is posted by someone else in their own site, right? So when we are doing this citing thing, there down they have mentioned about the website also from where you have got it.
yeah,
So then we have to mention that website from where we are getting it, right? But the journal is something different. The page that person has posted in their website.
correct.
So
This is
is
why
it
I've
okay?
added the yeah, this is why I've added the website separately. Because on the website, the owner himself sometimes he doesn't post, the other person post on his behalf.
Yes,
Maybe
yes,
they give
yes,
them credit, sometimes they don't give them credit because there is a data fudging. We take the data of someone else and we grab and copy paste and just post it on the internet.
yes,
So
ma'am.
if you're taking directly from the journal, then I would only recommend you the Google Scholar because there they are only those articles, those journals which are directly associated with the owner. That is the
Okay,
perfect way to
ma'am.
grab it. If you're going to do
Okay,
general
ma'am.
research, then it's always Google, that is websites, or definitely they. take the data from the other journals and they write it then them into their own words. But you can give them the credit too.
Okay,
Let's read that how we do that.
okay,
In this again, we are going to give author's last name, even if we are taking it from the website, initials, year, title of the web page. This is the difference now. When they're going to check the references, they will directly go to the title of the web page and they would know that which person copied which person's content. Name of the website too.
mm,
Available at URL assessed by day, month, and year. This is the most appropriate way to write a date. For example, Johnson, comma A dot 2018 in bracket, um, sustainable business practices dot. Then this is going to be the name of website, Business Today. This is a very famous paper, you know.
yes, ma'am.
Available at, this is the business. So your point is clear now. They have taken the data from this person who is Johnson and they have posted that on this website, Business Today. So in
Correct,
return,
ma'am.
the real person is getting the credit, not the one who has posted it. Okay,
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes,
done with this as well. Then the reference list is arranged alphabetically by the author's last name. We did see that. If there is no publication date, use n.d. Now, this is how we write it. That is no date. This is the correct
yes, ma'am.
method. Always italicize the titles of the books and journals. I told you we are going to use this method. Here it is, italicize in this way. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
And for your own help, I added another link here, which you can copy paste and see yourself if you want further help for the Harvard system. They have given the demos of videos too.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Then we have used the available information collected to justify conclusions and recommendations. That is whatsoever we have done in the upper part, we are going to justify that. If you remember, we did that in the last class too, how we are going to justify things. Okay. To justify conclusions and recommendations based on the information collected, it is essential to follow a logical and systematic approach. That is, summarize the key findings. Begin by summarizing the key findings obtained from your research. Highlight the most relevant and significant information that directly addresses your research question or objectives. That is the one part you have mentioned in, I think, after the introduction part, where you are going to mention the research question or objectives. You are going to add that in the key findings too. Then relate findings to the objectives. That is, clearly articulate how each finding is related to the initial objectives or research questions. That is, whatsoever you have concluded, they should be linked back to the questions and objectives which you have created in the start of the page. That is the proposal. Demonstrate a clear connection between the collected information and the purpose of your study. Why you are doing it, and what did you get it? What did you get from it? Provide context and analysis. Offer a contextual analysis of the findings. Explain any patterns, trends, or relationships observed in the data. That is, if you're going to, or for the quantitative data, that is charts and graphs, then you're going to do this part. Compare and contrast, if applicable. Compare and contrast different sources of information or the data sets. Identify similarities and differences and discuss the implications of these variations for your research. If you think that you're going to contrast, your research is a very contrastual or a contraceptual type theory, theory as in a topic, then what you're going to do it, you're going to tell the similarities and differences as well. You're going to properly elevate that topic in detail. Evaluate the quality of data. Assess the reliability and validity of the data collected. Discuss any limitations or biases in the data and acknowledge potential areas of improvement. This should be a very important aspect in your research too. Whatsoever you're going to do it, in the end, you have to give the credit, as in areas of improvement. Then there is no purpose of doing the research if you're not showing that this areas need to be improved from here and there and what you did. Link conclusions to literature. Connect your conclusions to existing literature in the field. Discuss how your findings align or diverge from the previous research, theories, or established practices. Obviously, if you remember in the start, I told talk about the research gap, identify a gap. Why I talked about it? Only on those bases you are opting for a topic. You will make a base paper for your research. That is, you are making or taking most of the content from it, and you are going to highlight that part in your paper, in your research proposal, which that person has not done. Okay, that's his
Yes,
word.
ma'am.
The conclusion and literature is. Generate recommendations. Based on your conclusions, generate a clear and actionable recommendation. Theirs should be practical, feasible, and directly address the issues and opportunities identified in your research. Once you generate the recommendations from the basis of the upper parts, then now what you have to do it, you have to justify them. Justify each recommendation by referencing back to the collected data and findings. Explain how implementing the recommendations can address the identified challenges or contribute to the overall objective. So these are what we have to say, that whatever steps we have followed above, you're going to tell the recommendations to the audience. And those recommendations should not be in the air. They should be on the ground with a very strong connection to the research questions, findings, and objectives. Consider alternative perspectives. If acknowledgement of the alternative perspectives or the potential counter arguments to your conclusions and recommendations, address these perspectives and explain why your proposed course of action is the most appropriate. That is, you should be quite confident enough while doing this research and ending the part at the recommendation part. That is why your research is more important than him. This is the general criteria of it. Then the overall coherence. Ensure that there is overall coherence between the information presented, the conclusion drawn, and the recommendation provided. The logical flow of your argument should be evident. That is, when you're going to present the arguments for the other authors, through which they will do the research on your research, that is the identifier gap, research gap, they should be quite strong one. And everything should be in alignment in one pattern. Things should be one on another, or the steps should not be missed. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
By following these steps, you can systematically use the information collected to build a robust case for your conclusions and recommendations. It is important to be transparent about your reasoning and provide a well supported rationale for the suggested actions. This was the conclusion for it. We are done three assessment criteria, as in one, two, three. Now, the merit part. Respond orally to the questions on research findings. That is, I think this is the Viva part which I'm going to take from you. Responding orally to the questions on research findings involves effectively communicating your research outcomes and insights when asked by an audience. Obviously, I'm not conducting your research on the national level or in the school forum, nor in the university level, because we don't have the class values too. Otherwise, I could go for a competition too. But what I can do is I will ask the questions from you. I'll be your audience, I'll be your assessor. What I'm going to do and what things are going to help. Prepare ahead. Familiarize yourself with your research findings and the key points you want to convey. Anticipate potential questions that might arise based on your presentation. All right. Whatever the point you've added in the presentation, they should be directly aligned with the points in the your report writing in your Word document. Clear articulation. Articulate your responses clearly and concise. Use straightforward language to ensure that your audience understands your points. Be way too easy with the language. Then focus on the key message. Emphasize the key messages and main findings. Highlight the most critical aspects of your research to keep your response focused and impactful. Now, obviously, in your Word document, everything is going to be in detail if we talk about the methodology part or the literature review part. However, when you're going to present it through the PowerPoint presentation, you're going to only tell me the important aspect, the key findings of. Provide the context. Start your responses by providing some context to the question. Briefly restate the relevant part of your research that relates to the inquiry. That is, the topic should be directly related to the correct aspect, the aspective part of the questions. That is the research questions or objectives. Use visual aids if available. If you have visual aids or sites, refer to them during your oral responses. Visuals can enhance clarity and help in reinforcing the key points. Now, I would highly suggest you do make the presentation slide. Why? Because it will help you to present the oral presentation. Rather than learning everything on your own, you can just give the references from the slides. It will help you. Clear?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Be transparent about the limitations. If there are limitations to your research or the areas where you could not find conclusive evidence, be transparent about them. That is not going to tell me on the spot that I could not find stuff on it. Acknowledge the boundaries of your study. Because every study, every research has premises. Relate to the audience. Relate your findings to the interests and concerns of your audience. Connect your research outcomes to the real world applications or the broader implications. Encourage questions. Encourage questions from the audience. Be open to clarifying any aspect of your research or address specific inquiries. This interaction enhances engagement. That is, in the end, I can ask questions, just like when I take a Viva. In Viva, what I do ask from my students, it is mostly from my course outline and slides and assignment brief. I ask questions which are only of 2 marks, and in this way, I assess them whether they were able to understand the course or not.
Okay.
Uh, have you ever been given the assignment brief before? Sorry, the Viva before?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you are not on that aspect.
No. This is my first time, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. Summarize key takeaways. Conclude your responses by summarizing the key takeaways. Reinforce the main messages you want audience to remember. That is, there are always keywords. Stay calm and composed. Maintain a calm and composed demeanor while responding. If faced with challenging questions, take a moment to gather your thoughts before answering. That is, it is absolutely all right to take a break, to have a break of 2 3 minutes and consider what the question was and how you can answer it. Practice with the peers, that is, with the groups when we do it on the professional level. Time management. Be mindful of the time constraints. Keep your responses with a reasonable time frame to allow for other questions and discussions. Like I remember at my time, I only used to get 15 minutes. It was so tough. I have to perform whole phenomena, what I have done, the work I have done, and I have to ask the questions as well. Remember that effective oral communication is a skill that can be honed with the practice. By being well prepared, clear, and responsive, you can confidently address questions on your research findings. This is way too true. If you have done the work by your own self, then there is no room for any ambiguity. You are going to clear the course, you are going to get the grade. Okay, the last part for this LO3. Analyze how the findings of the research can be used in an actual strategic business context. Now, the main thing. We have done the research, we have done everything. How this will help the business? Here you have to focus on the command verb. This is going to be a little bit of theoretical question or theoretical part, analyze. And analyze mean you're going to talk about the problem, solutions, importance, definitions, and everything. Analyzing how the findings of the research can be used in an actual strategic business context, it involves examining the practical applications and implications of your research outcomes. That is, whatever you have done in the research, we're going to talk about the practicality as well. The first point is identify the key findings. Begin by identifying the key findings of your research. Summarize the main discoveries and insights that emerged from your study. That is sometimes what happens is when we do the research, we find some new extent to it, a new channel. So we can make them or add that in the findings. Relate findings to the business objectives. Connect your findings to the overarching objectives of the business. In general, business objectives are what profit maximization, to have less redundancy, less labor turnover, and absenteeism. How do your research outcomes align with or contribute to the strategic goals of the organization? This could be a very important question too while doing this part. Examine relevance to the decision making. Assess how the research findings can inform decision making processes within the organization. Identify specific areas where the insights gained can influence the strategic choices of the organization. Explore operational implications. Consider the operational implications of your findings. That is, how can the results be translated into practical actions or changes in day to day business operation? That is, operational activities. How your findings could help the operational activity, the working capital part. Evaluate market and competitive impact. Analyze how the research findings might impact the organization's position in the market and its competitiveness. That is what it will be affecting, how it will be affected if we are going to perform this research in the industry and the market, whether it will be standing out or not. For example, are there opportunities to gain a competitive advantage based on the insights? That is, will you be able to fetch an advantage from it? Yes or no? Assess the risk and mitigation. Consider any risk or challenges associated with implementing the findings. Develop strategies or mitigation plans to address potential obstacles and ensure a smooth integration of the new practices. When we are finding the research we have completed it, what we could do is we can infiltrate that into the process of the organization and see how we can add that phenomena into the part of or the regular activities of organization. Link to innovation and growth. Explore how the research outcomes contribute to the innovation and growth. That is, can the findings be leveraged to create new products, services, or business models? This could be a very nice thing. Your research should be so interactive, so intellectual at the same time that it should help the organization. They're going to fund you out, and you can, like, it can help you in the production of new product, maybe packaging form, maybe a whole new created product. Address stakeholder expectations. Take into account the expectations of various stakeholders, including consumers, employees, investors, and regulatory bodies. That is both the internal and the external stakeholders. We have to take the considerations of them with whether you can perform it or not, the research. Ensure that the findings align with the stakeholder interest and expectations. If they're going to agree and give you the permission to conduct a research within the premises of the organization, then you have to take the interest. What are their likings and dislikings? Create actionable recommendations. Formulate actionable recommendations based on your findings. Provide clear and practical steps that the organization can take to capitalize on the research insights. Consider long term impact. Assess the long term impact of implementing the research findings. How sustainable are the proposed changes? The changes you have proposed in the recommendation part, implication part, how it will help the organization to be sustainable with it, whether it is for a long term or a shorter period of time, and what effects are expected over an extended period. For example, you think that the recommendations you have provided, they could last only for 6 years. What if we want to go for 10 years? Lastly, communicate effectively. Develop a communication strategy to convey the relevance and potential impact of your findings to the key stakeholders. Use persuasive and clear communication to ensure understanding and buy in. Lastly, monitor and adapt. Establish mechanism for monitoring the implementation of findings and be prepared to adapt strategies based on feedback and evolving business conditions. That is, obviously, you know that you're doing the research on your business, that is strategic business development. And everything should be interconnected in the last part. That is, what are the conditions of the business? If you're going to give this feedback, so you have to expect the feedback from them as well. And then we can do for the implementations in the end. These are the resources or the references. That's it. Any questions which you want to ask? Was the lecture helpful enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's great.